Hold on.
Oh my god, it's taking forever. There you go. Alrighty, hello everybody! Welcome to the Games, Geeks, and Gravity podcast. I'm your host, Josh, aka the Tiger Sweeper.
I'm the other host, Josh, aka Mr. Peter Panda.
And I'm Ryan, B4MVFAN.
Alrighty, hello everybody! Welcome to the Games, Geeks,
and
that awkward
Gravity
moment
podcast.
when you're running your stream in the background too. Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining today. Today is June 12th, and today we are at episode number 2. Alrighty, guys. Awesome. Cool. Alright, short little intro. We'll keep it short and sweet. Sorry we started a little bit late for you guys. But it is a fresh start today. We got something different. We brought in a good friend of mine from high school. This is Ryan, aka B4MVFAN. We brought him in today because we have a very loaded topic we're going to talk about, so we wanted to get a different opinion on it, and he's also got some things he'd like to talk about as well. And we're going to start by asking you, Ryan, so what is it that you do? Tell us what makes you you, and what you do for your stream.
Okay, so I am both a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer. For the most part, I just Twitch whenever I play, do mostly Let's Plays, and just play the game and talk to my audience. I'm very much on the interactive part and talking to people. That's why I like streaming. As for the YouTube thing, I've been on a hiatus for a while, and I've been going back and forth. But I'm hopefully trying to start back on that. I did a variety of shows. In the case of today's podcast, one of them I have a show called Ryan's Rants, which is basically I talk about any kind of controversial topic that's in gaming or any other sort of related geek universe that is controversial and is being talked about, and I just kind of say in my opinions and such on it. So that's kind of just where I sit on my About Me, guys.
Nice, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, sick, fits right in.
How long have you been streaming?
I've been streaming since I got my PS4 when it was announced, so about a little over a year now. It's been off and on. I don't have a set schedule, only because I have a crazy lifestyle. But for the most part, I just whenever I can. So, but over a year, and I think I'm up to 54 followers and
nice.
Over
awesome.
600 views, I think, or something like that. I can't
Good
remember.
for you. There you go. Nice. Good job.
That's sick.
Awesome. Sounds like it's going very well for you. Welcome to our awesome Games, Geeks, and Gravity podcast, where we do nothing but talk about games, being geeky, and of course gravity because we live in it. So, thank you again for joining us. Let's see. Any updates, Josh? What do you think? You got any updates going on here?
Other than finals week, thank God.
Yeah.
Done with
now
school
that we're both
summer.
done with that. That's definitely easing up things for us. I know from my end, if you guys haven't heard me lately, especially yesterday, I will be setting up a new streaming schedule. I'm actually going to put that on my channel and everything like that, kind of getting that worked out. I also have a 24-hour stream plan and everything, so that will be talked about a bit later. Planning to do a 24-hour stream for Child's Play, so get some people out here, hang out, and have some fun with that too.
Yep, good
Cool.
stuff.
Yeah. Alrighty, so our biggest topic of today. It's a very, very loaded topic. It's talked about a lot and a lot of things, and that is gaming controversy. That is our main topic for the night. It is the very broad spectrum of game controversy. So about the sex, about the nudity, the violence, the violent behaviors, or the violent games leading to violent behaviors, all that kinds of stuff. So we're kind of gonna dabble into each thing, and then we're going to break off into a different topic presented by Mr. B4MVFAN Ryan here. We're going to get into something that he's been wanting to talk about too. So, all right, what do you guys want to start? What part do you guys want to start with here?
I don't know. We can just start off with this. What would be the most recent game, just so people can kind of catch a vibe? Hatred we talked about that last week.
Yeah,
we talked about that last week.
When that was a big controversial game that came out recently.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so that would be more like game. Let's go. So we'll start with gaming violence. So, what do you guys think is the appropriate amount of gaming violence? Let's start with that first.
There's
So
no limit.
we'll start with Ryan.
No limit. I mean, it's an art. Video games are an art form. So I mean, think about, like, what is it, the Statue of David? It's like, he's got a cock out. Who cares? Like, it's art. You just
Hmm.
gotta respect art the way it is. I mean, now granted, I'm not saying that you need to, go about, just depicting violence against children or whatever have you. Like, it still needs to be more or less moderated, but I mean, you could still just put as much violence, gore, whatever have you into it. I mean, look at MKX has some pretty brutal fatalities,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
even other video games as such that depict violence that's a little extreme. But I mean, it's just the nature of the arts and what people are into and stuff like that. I mean, you go to watch a horror movie and no one really bats an eye. Everyone thinks it's gross, but when it's in video games, it's just like, oh my god, like how can we do this and all of that. Now, granted, I know it's interactive, but you should have a common psyche to know not to go out and mimic these events. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just like a very, just grazing the whole iceberg of it all. So,
Hmm. Okay. What about you, Josh? What do you think?
See, I think it kind of fits with the genre of the game that's being made. Like a horror game most likely is gonna have like excessive gore because it plays off of our psyche. Like when we see that kind of stuff, we get put at like kind of on tilt. Like it's kind of disturbing to see those kind of things. So you expect that in a horror game. And a game that like Mortal Kombat, it's called Mortal Kombat. Like you can't not expect that to be a violent game,
Right,
especially
right.
knowing the background of the game, how it was pretty much made famous because of the fatalities that they had. So it's just like one of those. I totally vibe with the whole. Yeah, no, it's an art form. We shouldn't like glorify like killing of random innocent people or just like children. Like, but at the same time, it shouldn't be as big as a deal as it's made out to be. Like
Hmm.
I totally agree. You should have the common sense of this is this is fake. This is all like a game. It's not real. Don't go and bring it to the real world because it's that's the reason we have these games. It's like
Yeah.
an outlet.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of vibe off of both of you guys. It's very similar. Like, we should all have a better understanding of, um, yeah, this is absolutely just a game. Like, there's nothing real about this. It's all pigment of people's imaginations and people kind of running through that. Um, I also think for me with gaming violence, like I would agree with you, Ryan. There's not really a level, just because it can just go so far to a very detailed way of doing it. Like think of when you think of cinematography. So I just got back from seeing what's it called? Jurassic World. I just got back from seeing that,
Oh, is that
and
good?
it's fucking great, dude. It's so good.
I want to see
It was
that so
hella
bad.
good. Um, there is that, like, there's ways you can do it. So you can have it so that the violent parts are very explicit. You can see the detail of that explicit violence, or you can do it so it's where it's like what's it called? Where it's like so like with cinematography, they have it like they pan the screen over to like just a mirror and then you see the blood splatter. Like it's the
Hmm.
same way of doing it. But with the public and society in terms of game violence, I think a lot of it too is fear mongering from the media into like the parents and
Yeah.
them kind of um then kind of like giving it momentum, being like, oh my god, like this is horrible. Why are kids playing this nowadays? Like if you teach your kids that it's not real, it's not gonna be a problem because you're teaching them what's right, what's wrong, what's real, and what's fake.
Yeah, and not only that, like if you don't want your kids playing that game, most of these games that are controversial, they can't get on their own.
Mhm.
They're rated M for a reason, and at least we've done a better job of enforcing the fact that if it's rated M, you can't buy it if you're like a kid.
Mhm.
So it should be one of those things. It's like, well, you should have known that going in if you're really worried about what your children are playing. Like
Mhm.
I always say, don't be a helicopter parent because that's not going to do anything. That's just going to make everything worse. But do a little research on the game. Like if you think a game might be bad for your kid to play,
Mhm.
just Google the game really quick. You're bound to come up with a trailer or something, and you can just determine like, man, maybe this is too much.
Mhm.
I just don't like the whole fact that it's like kids are the one targeted. It's like, when, oh shit, they shouldn't be. It should be more like we should kind of try to get the parents to understand that there's resources out here to show you that these games are violent,
Mhm.
and you can be forewarned before buying it, before exposing your kids to them.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think, Ryan?
Well, I mean, that's, exactly nail on the head. It's just no parent really takes the time to just do it, like their kid just screams like, gimme, 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 and they're like, okay, whatever, And I mean, I could just blame the generation of, parenting. I mean, like I feel like,
Yeah.
the later generations, they're just kind of like, okay, whatever, like no one cares anymore. And then, it turns around, something happens, like, little Billy Bob decides to carjack somebody and then stab a woman to death, like, and then what? The first thing they're gonna think of, oh, it's GTA's fault. Let's just blame it
Yeah.
on Rockstar
Yeah.
and just go ahead and, do that. But, it all comes down to, like I said, the ESRP system, and, making sure that when, you purchase your game, that you have an understanding. I know that GameStop is becoming a little bit better with that. I know that you have to have, obviously a parent with you when you buy it, or, some sort of identification. Hell, like even when I, bought a game, I think I bought, what did I buy recently? It was a rated M game, and even then they still had a card me. I'm like, do I look like I'm like
Yeah.
16? Like, come on now, buddy. And it's like, it's just, standard protocol, which is great.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same thing, like with
Yeah.
alcohol and cigarettes. I mean, yeah, shit, you could look like you're 40 years old, but you're still going to show identification just because it's,
It's
it's just
appropriate.
protocol.
Yeah,
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 exactly. So,
yeah. See, that's my thing too. Is like you get so you get it like I remember when I was younger and like buying games like with my parent of course at that age. There were a ton of kids who were just able to get it because the associate at the store would just give it to them. Like so could you how would you determine that then? Because if you think about it, it's kind of on the employee's fault too, and on the parent's fault, of course. Like, what do you guys think about that? Because for me, it's like, okay, well, the fucking the person at the register is the one that's like, all right, here you go. All right, next person in line. Like, I work in
Yeah.
retail, and it's like I get that because if there's a lot of people, fine, but there's still a very high there's just still a level of morality that you have to meet, you know, when it comes to giving these kids these games.
Yeah. I think it just, unfortunately, it should be like a kind of a fireable offense, because at the same time, it's that that makes the company selling the game, like GameStop, that makes them liable, because if their employee sold the game to somebody who shouldn't have bought it,
Mhm.
then they can easily be sued for that kind of crap, especially especially in America, where we can pretty much sue anybody for something that's our fault, you
Mhm.
know? And it's just one of those. It shouldn't be. It should just kind of be like a slap on the wrist. You shouldn't do that. But unfortunately, our we're such a kind of needy and selfish generation
Mhm.
that we kind of need a kick in the butt sometimes, like that, where it's like,
Mhm.
no, you were wrong, and this was bad. You're fired, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So that way, at least the employees are trying to be strict about it, and it again falls under the parents, who are the ones that have to buy the game.
Right. Because I kind of feel like with like the associates sometimes they like I feel like there's not really any consequences when they do
Yeah.
that. Like yeah, now they have to thoroughly do it because you see it all the time now. But like some stores still don't do it because they just don't give a shit. They just want to get paid. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, so what do you guys do about that? Like now they're enforcing kids to do this stuff. Like, I'm not really getting that.
Yeah. No, but that goes to the part where it's just, unfortunately, it might happen until the company selling the game gets in trouble, because it's one of
Yeah.
those. It's a law now. It's like we.
Mhm.
So when you're doing it, you're breaking the law, and eventually you'll get caught and get busted for it. So
Mhm.
until then, it's gonna happen. It's one of those. It's like gravity. Shit's just gonna be there. You gotta deal with it.
Yeah, it just kind of just happens.
Yeah.
Um, and so like with terms of in terms of the violent settings, like, how do you think how do you think so what do you think game industry should do to help kind of push the parents saying, hey, do not buy this for your kid no matter what. Like, this is not very appropriate for ages X to X, you know? Like, what do you think? Do you think there's a way that parents can, like gaming companies can do that and advertise and be like, hey, this is very blah blah blah, you know, like don't buy it for them. I don't care what you say, you know?
No, just use common sense. I mean, really, like, why should we have to just? I mean, think about it. You put the ESRB sticker is on the box and it's in the advertising. I mean, god damn it. Like, I mean, think about cigarettes and think about alcohol. You know, like there's a little tiny little thing from the general health or whatever the hell it is. You know, saying like, okay, don't do this because this can happen. But they're not going to sit there and advertise to you like, hey, like if you're under the age of 21, you probably shouldn't do this. You know, like who cares? You know, like you know, I said it before. You know, it's America. You know, like we thrive off the economy. I mean, if people that are underage or whatever want to buy this shit, like forget it. Tell them the economy, right? You know, like none of that really matters. It comes down to just money and sales. And I mean, you know, if someone gets hurt along the way, well, I mean, it's just one person out of what, like 10 million, just in California alone. So it's just a numbers game, and you can't. I mean, they're already doing enough, and I mean, I know that I think there's a couple games that like I want to say Mortal Kombat was in there. You know, they did it ironically, saying like, hey, like this is probably not a game for your kids, and then they'll show some scenes, like from fatalities or something like that, or any other games. They do it ironically, but they're not sitting there, seriously going like, okay, this is in the game, this is in the game. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, when I, like say for example that like the stove was on and I would pretend to touch it, and my mom like, don't touch it, it's hot. And you fuck with it anyway, and you still touch it and you burn yourself, and then she just looks at you like like I told you.
Yeah.
No. You want to
agree.
play with fire, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just though they have the warnings out there. There's all the resources out there. There's no reason why they should be surprised when they walk in and there's like excessive violence on a game or boobs in the game. It's like it says it on the damn the case of the game. Like, hey, there might be nudity in this. There might be alcohol. There might be excessive violence or drug abuse. Like, there shouldn't be any surprise. And it's one of those. It's not the gaming company's like job to babysit the parents. They do what they have to, and it's out there. It's again, it falls on to the parents. It's like because the thing is like, some parents are completely okay with it. Like some parents let their kids watch those like R-rated movies and let them play the M-rated games because they're either their kids are mature or the parents just don't care. And
that's what I think too. So like, so you guys are mentioning that the ESRB ratings. If you think about it, 95 to 98% of the time, nobody even looks at that anymore, because our like society has become so accustomed to this kind of stuff happening all the time. They're just like, fuck it, it's just a game, whatever. Like, I'll get it. But doesn't that, I feel like that should mean that to prevent these things from happening and being associated with gaming, there has to be some sort of emphasis on like, this is not for children. This is not like they do not let this, Well,
I think for us it's easier for us to ignore it because we're at the age where it's like we don't care for the excessive violence, so we don't pay attention as much. Whereas I think some parents do, that they actually care for that kind of stuff, but we just don't, so we don't really see it, So we kind of just glance over all those kind of rating things because it doesn't matter to us. We can get it whatever. We know what we're getting. We know what's in the game, so we don't really care. So I think it's also kind of vice versa, where the parents, some parents do really look at those things and they do help, but it's just the louder minority that when they are burnt, they're really loud about it and everybody has to hear.
So with the level of violence, like, so Hatred is a very good, clear cut controversial game out there. Do you think there should be an extra company possibly kind of like always observing these companies when they're making their games, or like these
No.
Okay.
That's too much, like,
it's too much censorship.
I don't know, because
There's
that would give
censorship in America. I mean, my God.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's an art form, for fuck's sake, you know? Like, enough with the censorship, you know? Like, keep your child underneath the rock if you need to, okay?
Mhm.
But, I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like, you know, like, welcome to America. We're free to do whatever the fuck we want because it's America. I'm allowed to curse on the fucking internet because it's the fucking internet. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
I can say what I want and say my piece. If someone doesn't like it, then don't watch, you know?
Mhm.
Like,
Exactly.
it like I said, it all boils down to is just parenting and whether or not you care to, you know, check out the box and read the box
Mhm.
and be informed. You know, like don't let your 6-year-old kid manipulate you. If anything, that shows what kind of parent and what kind of person you are if you let your kid do that. So
Mhm.
I mean, that's it. There's really, it shouldn't be any more, you know, argument for it or against it. You know, it's like,
Right.
it boils down to parenting. There is a system that's in place. There are enough warning labels. There's enough, even in like the trailers for the games, in the very beginning of the game or at the very end of the trailer, they will say this game is rated M for mature. You know, or at the end, they'll show all the things that are in it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I remember when I was younger, when I used to like watch R-rated movies, I was always look to see if there's nudity, and I always got
Mhm.
excited. You know, like
Exactly.
kids are
Exactly.
still like they'll still look at it and have an idea of what's in the game, you know.
Mhm.
And there's like you said, you know, there's plenty of stuff on the internet to even show like, you know, if something is controversial and like it's in the headline news, of course they're gonna read about it once that happens. And then if the kid starts asking for it, it's at that point where they've been warned enough to determine like, okay, no, that's not okay, you can't have it, or yes, it's fine, I'll watch you play it, or no, like, you know, just go for it, just play it, whatever. And
Mhm.
that's all. I mean, that's all it boils down to. It's just, you know, bad parenting, and you
Mhm.
know, when something bad happens, you know, it's like a soccer mom. You know, like their kid doesn't get played, they're gonna bitch about it. You know, like come on, like get
Yeah.
over it. You know,
Yeah.
like just deal with it, how it comes and how it is. You know, nothing you can say or do is gonna change anything when it comes to this industry. I think the industry is absolutely booming, and it's going to continue to rise over the next decade or so, especially with the next gen stuff that's been out.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that in mind, so we kind of covered the violence part. So let's kind of get down to, like the sexualization in like so like sexualization, nudity. What else kind of follows with that? Um, Kind of just those two in general. So what are your thoughts on that? Because if you think about, so recently The Witcher 3 is very big on that. Like, there's a ton of nudity. If yeah, if you guys are
Unicorn.
if you
Yeah.
guys are seeing part of my stream, I already got to one of the parts where the chick was just fucking laying in the tub, you know, and she's just like boobs and everything, and then she like stands up, like you see everything, um, and and then you kind of go back to maybe like a game like with Mass Effect, when they got a ton of flack because
Oh yeah.
they
Oh
did
yeah,
the
that was
similar
funny.
thing. So what are your guys' thoughts on like nudity and sexualization of like this whole gaming controversy?
Yeah, and I think it's the same. It's the whole if you don't want it, you don't get the game. Like The Witcher is based off of of